Kylie Minogue, legendary Australian pop singer, particularly legendary in the UK. She's always been incredibly successful over here in comparison to what seems like other countries, particularly America. I think she's had hits over there, but not quite as many as over here. Kylie's just always been a household name here from the late 90s, well into the late 2000s. I feel like she's just always been a singer that, you know, has charting hits, is incredibly well known. As soon as you mention her name, most people will know exactly who she is. And thankfully, she's actually always been really good. Like her stuff in the early 2000s, particularly Fever. Fever is an absolute slapper of an album, man. Seriously, if you just want a really, really good pop album, go listen to Fever. Like seriously, front to back, the tracks are just really, really well produced. And she is a killer performer too. Especially when you think like these days pop has sort of seen like a revival. It hasn't seen a revival, but in the critics' consensus, I feel like critics have slowly started to warm up to more popular type stuff. I remember there was a time where pop wasn't cool to critics. Like Pitchfork would never give shit best new music if it was mainstream or pop. But suddenly there was a sea change, and you know, Carly Rae Jepsen was like the next big thing for critics. So if you want to go back and check some earlier 2000s pop type stuff, anything from Kylie is way up your alley. She was friggin' good. But this time around we've got a disco album. Not only is it called disco, but it is in fact a disco release, which is becoming a trend amongst female pop singers to suddenly decide that they want to go back to the late 70s, early 80s and take some of that dance pop era and throw it into their own music. Jessie Ware, Roisin Murphy. I think that new Little Mix album is taking some inspirations from that era too. I haven't listened to every track just yet. I don't know if I will. But it really is a bloody trend right now. It seems like the in thing. Even The Weeknd with his latest album, the two best songs I think were In Your Eyes and Blinding Lights, and they clearly took inspiration from a different era. It's working for some artists and it's fun, but I'm starting to wonder if it's going to get a bit stale if everyone just starts pulling from that era and not really adding anything to it. And Kylie Minogue here, I think, is selling herself short, because I think there's more to her music and always has been than what she's giving us on this album. Firstly, lyrically, she's punching below her weight massively, because I don't think she's ever really released a crop of tracks that are this basic in terms of the song topics and the lyrics that she's putting out there. I personally think she's a much better writer than what she's giving us on the track Magic, where the song is incredibly stiff lyrically. Like it's just so on the nose, and it really sets the tone for the album, because nearly every track following this follows this pattern. It's a good thing that a track like this and so many of the tracks that follow it are engineered really well. Like the engineering on this album is really top notch. The production is super on point. A lot of the instrumentals are really catchy, really memorable. They stick in your head. She is sounding as good as she was 25 years ago, which is really impressive too. So she's selling these songs really well on a vocal level, and that's generally where this album shines. I think just the songs themselves sound really good, even if they are very much indebted to a particular era. It's different to that Roisin Murphy album, where I just felt that so many tracks should be shortened down. You know, you could trim some of the songs by about 2-3 minutes. Because this album here is completely different to that. It's straight to the point, just punchy, and the tracks come in and out, and that's pretty much it. I just end up finding it hard to attach myself to some of these tracks, Monday Blues being a great example, where it's essentially just a weekend anthem, just talking about how she can't wait for the weekend, and how on a Monday she's got the Monday Blues. God, put this on a mug, why don't you? You make every day feel like Saturday. Ugh. Lots of tracks being directed towards this like make-believe fantasy that she's got going on with this person that she's sort of fantasizing over and even in love with. It carries on for so long though. Last Chance, I love it. Where Does the DJ Go? And Dance Floor Darling. Like 4 tracks in a row that have nearly identical song topics. It's really just being on a dance floor, hoping that someone catches your eye and you dance with them, and you want that first dance with them at the end of the night before the DJ calls last orders, or, you know, makes it the last call. It's just the same song 4 times in a row. Last Chance, where she says, I want a song that'll turn me on. Not really any different to Where Does the DJ Go? Because she's essentially just saying that she wants the music to keep going and to keep dancing. And then Dance Floor Darling is essentially looking for her dance floor darling, obviously, which is the same premise to Last Chance, right? It's a good thing that the songs themselves sound really good, because they get so stale with the lyrics, and I get quite tired with listening to the same song on repeat, really. But at least, you know, you've got Dance Floor Darling, which has that like Daft Punk section. It honestly sounds like Daft Punk are all over this track. Really feels like Discovery era Daft Punk, which makes total sense because that album took from the disco era and, you know, previous musical decades. So this track taking from that sort of era makes a lot of sense as well. The instrumental on I Love It is one of the best on the whole album too. The horn section is fantastic. I love a great horn section in a pop song, and this one is no different, because this one sounds really, really good. It truly is the catchiness of the songs which keeps me going with this album, because like I say, I just get a bit bored with some of the lyrical themes, Supernova being one of them, where it's just very cliche with how you're something in the galaxy, in the universe, shining bright. That's how good you are. That's how beautiful you are. Say Something was the lead single to the album, and it didn't really set me up to think that, you know, every track would kind of make me wince a little bit of the lyrics, because this track's just really straightforward, to the point, and again, it is probably the best track here, but at least the lyrical themes aren't exactly tiring or tedious. Just making me wonder if she's trying a bit too hard to appeal to a younger audience with these kinds of lyrical themes, the kind of hopeless romanticism type stuff that you get in a lot of pop music. Kylie never really did that in her prime though, so to see her trying to dumb down her style a little bit is a bit of a shame. I'm starting to wonder if a lot of these artists are trying to take a lot from what Dua Lipa did with Future Nostalgia, because those lyrical themes were incredibly straightforward. And the thing with Dua Lipa though is that she sold a lot of the lyrics with her charisma, and she was quite tongue-in-cheek at times. She threw in a few lines that were pretty funny, particularly in tracks like Bad in Bed. I think she just had a better way of selling what she was doing, whereas a lot of artists are just trying to kind of mimic that a little bit, and they're not really bringing that sort of charisma, that attitude to the table. I think this album overall is solid. It's really well produced. The final track is a bit more of a mid-tempo type ballad song. It reminds me of Into the Blue, which is one of Kylie's tracks from quite a few years ago now. She's trying to kind of play to that sort of balladeering type stuff. It's a nice way to end things off. But generally the album's just really catchy and straightforward. Like if you just want to forget everything and, you know, just not have to think about lyrics and just want some catchy tunes, you can't go wrong with this. I sort of feel like fans of ABBA would love this, because ABBA is very much like that, where you don't have to think about anything, you just stick them on and they put on a great show with their tunes. And this album kind of reminds me of something like that. But I just think Kylie is selling herself short here. A lot of the lyrics just kind of don't work for me, and it puts me off the album a little bit. Especially when so many lyrical themes get repeated throughout, it just starts to get a bit stale. 6 out of 10 from me. I think it is solid. I think it's a good album, just not anywhere close to her best for me. But go check out some of her older stuff if you never have, especially if you're a bit younger. Definitely check out some of her best stuff like Fever. I think you'll enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed this review as well. Hopefully you enjoyed the album. Thank you for watching my review. Have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and goodbye.